Greetings, gamers, and welcome to another live stream. This week we go back into our 90s retro Sega room to enjoy some more classics. And what better of a classic to jump into other than Golden Axe? One of the first and very early 16-bit beat-em-ups that really had a big impact and impression on me back in the day. I can't really tell you when the last time I played this one, so it's going to be an interesting journey to say the least. So I think... there we go, full screen. And what kind of options they give you in this one? Let's give me some life. I'll take it. Not here for easy. You got it, Nate. It's all about the retro goodness. What's going on, buddy? So you got like Thunderhead and Tigress and Axe Battler. Well, they start off with Axe Battler. Let's throw it in for Axe Battler. You can't go wrong with the guy named Axe Battler that doesn't even use an axe. Yeah, I play these games for the story. They work out well. It was an interesting mechanic when we got into Golden Axe, because you had one of the early games that had a lot of the staple things that you want to beat 'em up, and then they twisted in a little bit of a magic, which was fun and interesting to have. I mean, by today's standards, I can see maybe newer gamers may find this to be a little bit more, I don't know, tedious than they'd care for, but for its time, this really was a fantastic little game. I just love getting my magic from these guys. I remember it just being interesting to seeing the different magic types between the characters, and how fun it was to see the differences. Now, Axe Battler, I'd say he's pretty much the middle one. What's up, TV? Yeah, beating guys up for magic was always the more fun racket on this one. I do have to admit, I can't remember playing this game much single player. I've always been a much more, this is like a game I'd pull off the shelf if someone came over at the time and be like, alright, let's play some Golden Axe, because it really is much more enjoyed, like every beat 'em up, to play multiplayer. Single player, it's just kind of, it's alright. It's not a bad game single player, but it's a world of difference. Exponentially improves when you have someone else to play with. That's all about Turtle Village. It's pretty much just lining yourself up the right way so then you can't get hit, but you can hit somebody else, which I'm not doing there. But what the heck, let's do full magic. Let's get some good magic rolling there. That's a faster way to handle things. I don't even know if these guys, for the speed that they hit at. Uh-oh. There we go. That'll work. Nothing a little magic can't fix. But these guys just can't stop crashing while you're trying to sleep. Yeah, it's a good example. Batman Returns being as a beat 'em up, that one does feel a little off. But that one I almost give a pass to, just because I don't know how you'd really make that one 2 players, because there was no Robin in that Batman if they wanted to stay accurate. And unless they wanted to have like maybe a Adam West colored Batman and then Michael Keaton colored Batman, to have 2 players, that'd be kind of interesting. But yeah, that one I would not argue if they somehow made it 2 players. It'd be interesting. But that one almost gets a pass because, you know, Batman's always flying solo in most cases fighting, so I think that might be why they did that one single player. Because at the time they just couldn't think of who the second player would be. Like if you look at Batman and Robin, the animated series, on the Genesis, that's 2 players. I guess they could have threw Alfred in there, good point. I'd love to see Alfred just throwing out tea at everybody, and I guess I should be paying attention to how I'm not playing here. Yeah, I don't even know if I'm going to be able to get through this one, because I gotta say, I think the only times I've beaten this game was 2 players. This was like a game that I enjoyed, but it was never one I ever remember really pulling off the shelf, if, you know, it was just me playing. It's like, I never had an urge to just bust out Golden Axe for single player fun. Yeah, I just couldn't get enough punishment out of the retro game room, Ryu. There's so many more titles here, but no matter what, I'm being optimistic. This cannot be as aggravating and punishing as Toe Jam and Earl, because at least this game is much more linear. Much more. Yikes. Alright. Yeah, doing it with VR is just asking for trouble in this mode. I don't even want to imagine playing anything on this with VR in any of these games. After I did that Sonic, it literally took me a week to get that nagging headache taken care of, so. I always like the characters that are so confident, they just sit there and laugh until you attack them. So did any of you guys hear about the new virtual, well, I don't know how new it is, but I didn't know of it at the time. There's a virtual library for ROMs out there, and it's called, like, Classics or something, with an X, Classics, and it's basically some guy opened up a company, and he physically bought, like, 7,000, or physically has 7,000 games. Man, I'm getting slaughtered, let me hit the button on that. And with those 7,000 games, he ripped the ROMs himself, and then he put them in, like, a memory mode of a software client that you download, so you can actually rent the games, and when your rental is up, then it goes away, if that makes sense. Like, if he, let's pretend he has, like, 4 copies of Fester's Quest. Well, if he has 4 people out there logged in using Fester's Quest, then his server knows he can't do any more. So it's perfectly legal what he's doing. It's kind of interesting. That might be a future way around the whole ROM emulation thing. It's pretty crazy. I wish I remembered the exact name. It's called, like, Classics or something. It's a library of ROMs that anybody can rent. That was one of the fairly interesting articles I came across this week. Well, I fully agree Nintendo's still attacking them, and actually I think they mentioned it that they have been attacked by Nintendo, but they're, you know, they started the company with like a lawyer that is a copyright lawyer, and he already sent a letter to Nintendo when they attacked and said, yeah, this is perfectly legal. Please explain to me how this is illegal. And Nintendo still has yet to respond, and that was a long time ago, they claim, so we'll see. Only time will tell. Exactly, Ryu. If he, say he only has like 1 copy of Little Samson, then if somebody rents Little Samson, then that's locked out of the system until that person, you know, opens it up. But the cool thing is, it's kind of like Netflix, except I want to say it said you can get a free account for renting the ROMs. But if you have a free account, the disadvantage is what systems you have access to. And I think it said NES and older is the free accounts. And if you wanted anything newer than the NES era, like say Super Nintendo or Sega Genesis, it was $6 a month, something like that. So $6 a month is pretty reasonable. I mean, considering it's a pretty vast library. But I'm sure in the future, I mean, as long as he keeps going strong, that guy really is onto something for having an option. Because we all know, no matter what, Nintendo and all the other gaming companies aren't going to make everything available. There's always going to be something missing, a certain variant or variation. Well, the funny thing is, he's not charging them for the ROMs. He's charging for... It's no different than the way he set it up as a virtual Blockbuster. I mean, what's the difference between back in the day when you'd go to Blockbuster and they bought 5 copies of a certain game that was popular? Well, if 5 copies were out, people would pay for them, and then when they came back in, they went back on the shelf. He just virtualized the old mentality of, or the old technique, I should say, for renting. So, I think it sounds pretty feasible. I don't know how that's really illegal. Yeah, it's really crazy what they make it a point to make accessible still, and then what they decide to just take away. And what comes to mind for me is a lot of WiiWare titles that were actually pretty decent, that luckily I think I still have on my Wii, but, you know, once that Wii dies or something goes, the WiiWare titles are gone. Like, I think it was Castlevania Rebirth was a really good one, and, hey, Izzy, good to see you, buddy. Can't go wrong with some good old, Golden Axe fun. I don't even know if I'm going to have enough lives to beat this. This is going to be terrible how rusty I am at this game. My only complaint, I mean, and it's just the age of the game, it's just the variety of the moveset. At least you have the run and hit move going for you. But there's just not that many combos. It's far from a Streets of Rage, to say the least. But yeah, I'm really surprised how ridiculous it's getting for accessibility for all that retro stuff, but I don't know, the future's going to be a scary thing with the way they're being about it. I will say I'm really excited about, I saw also an article with those new, I think it's like Retro-Bit Sega Saturn wireless controllers. Those are pretty slick. When I saw those, I'm pretty interested in getting a classic Sega Saturn wireless Bluetooth controller, because the wireless controllers I have for my Sega Saturn are actually, whoops, hit the wrong button. They're actually the Naki, N-A-K-I brand, and they're infrared, which, I mean, don't get me wrong, they work alright. I mean, I never had big issues, but they're infrared, so you better make sure that the infrared sensor's pointing at you wherever you're playing. And in one of my setups of my game room, I actually have my consoles in drawers. So Bluetooth would come in much more handy than having infrared. Really? Well, Yeah, I remember seeing something about that Grandia remake. That sounds interesting. I've never played Grandia, though. Never played it before. I've heard it's really good, though. Yeah, it would be nice if the Saturn got more love out there. I think the Saturn's got some excellent stuff to offer, but I think, correct me if I'm wrong, that they're possibly going to be making it digitally available, select titles, of course, on the Switch or something. Really? So starting with the second game is the way to be going on that one. I tell you, you gotta get these enemies on one side, because that's how it always be handled. Two players would be so much easier, because one person would be keeping one guy busy, so you're usually only fighting one-on-one. I love how skeletons scream the same as living people. Yeah, I wouldn't expect the undead to have the same sounds. Come here! Ah! Missed that one. Hey, there he is. There we go. Wonder if those guys ever just disappear. Oh, nice. That's why I want stone guys. So, has anybody dove in and gotten the Shenmue remasters yet? Or not remasters, I should say port. It's not a remaster. I gotta say, for the convenience in the game being as cheap as it is, I'm extremely interested. And the funny thing is, I do actually have Shenmue for the Dreamcast, and I never got around to playing it. It actually came in a lot back in the day when I bought some Dreamcast stuff. And it looked interesting, but I saw that it was 2 discs, and I was like, this is a long game, so I better plan strategically when I'm going to have time to play it. And it never happened. I gotcha. So what are your first takes on how they ported the Shenmue over? Is it just as good as the original if you've played it, or is it like, they didn't port this thing very well, so don't bother with it, you know? Streaming the original would be cool for comparison's sake, because you gotta show people what they're missing out on. But, I mean, the little that I've heard or seen about it, they said supposedly it's pretty much just a straight port, and the only thing that's really changed is, I don't know, certain licensing things, or, you know, if they, like, used a certain brand or showed something. I don't know. Great. You ice them, and then they come right back. Yeah, this makes me really appreciate 2 players. So 3 taking so much time is giving it a bad run, huh? That's interesting. Is there a lot in Shenmue that needed to be censored? I mean, I really don't know Shenmue well at all, so it didn't seem like a game that needed a lot of censorship, but I don't know it, the plot and everything too well. Yeah, that double teaming programming is done pretty well in this game. We're getting any closer here. I will say it had some pretty cool looking levels, Golden Axe, for its time. I mean, this stuff is just awesome. I mean, I'm surprised there's so much, there's a lot of people that actually don't like this game. But I guess I can see it from a single-player perspective, not so much a multiplayer perspective. Wow! Okay, that's a great spot to get slaughtered. Yeah, I think I'm supposed to be moving up and then tricking him to move down. That was a nice cheap death. That would be interesting, just to be the bad guys instead of the good guys. I always liked that perspective when games had the options. Some games do that, actually. It's like, who do you want to play as, the good or bad guys? But that's more computer games than console games I can think of. Yeah, you know what? The Saturn... It'd be so interesting if you go back in time and if Sega never bothered with the 32X and just put all their energy straight into the Saturn. I think that would have definitely helped the reputation to at least do better. Because I remember I was honestly a Sega fanboy back in the day for Sega Genesis. I mean, I was all about original NES. And then we came to... Well, that was quick. Axe Battler's not the character for me, apparently. There's a score in this game? That's interesting. Man, I got a D. They even give you a grading. This is like school all over again. You're too kind, Ryu. That was not that good of a job. But, you know what we're going to do? Honestly, I was going to just try the flavors of the characters here. So, that's how far we got with Axe Battler. Let's see if we get a difference with Tigress here. Maybe she'll work out a little bit better for me. Personally, when I always played, I used like Thunderhead, the dwarf with the axe. Which wasn't golden, which I was always irritated by in the game, that it wasn't golden. Yeah, I don't remember playing much as a female character, but wow, I can already tell with her speed. I think I already prefer over Axe Battler for the speed, because he was kind of like moving molasses, it felt like. Oh yeah, she's got some good speed here. I'm always a fan of fast characters when it comes to beat-em-up games. I'll take the weaker characters that are fast over the big, slow, tough guy any day. Because I just can never get in a rhythm with the big, slow, tough guy. I can see what you're saying with the CDX being a waste, but honestly, I feel the CDX, I'm grateful for the CDX existing because that's what I use. I have back in the day I had a Model 2 Sega CD with a Model 1 Sega Genesis, so that was about the ugliest setup you could possibly have. And, you know, I have them back in the box, I boxed them back up, and I just use a CDX because it's actually way more reliable. Sega CDX is about the highest quality, I think, Sega console you can get, besides the original Sega Genesis that came out before they started watering them down. And the form factor is awesome. I love how much space you save on that. Well, you know what, when it comes to Gauntlet, you'd want the guy with the most life, I think, because in Gauntlet, your health is always going down, it's your time limit, so I think I'd want the guy with the longer time limit. So, you know what, that's a good point, TV, that you brought up. That'd be one time that I would take the slower guy. But in Gauntlet, none of the characters really feel slow, because Gauntlet's a pretty fast-paced game. But yeah, it would be super interesting to see, you know, if they never bothered with the 32X, they should have just took all that energy. I mean, the Sega CD was, I think, acceptable enough of an add-on, and it was pretty cool in its own right, and it had some nice exclusive titles. Then it added some things here and there, and they had a lot of definitive versions of games that were on a Sega Genesis, like Earthworm Jim, and, what's that other, Mortal Kombat knockoff? Eternal Champions, was it? That's supposedly the definitive version I have of the Sega CD one. Not that that's a fantastic game, but I digress. Alright, Kula D's here to tell us what the score is. Who's your favorite character on here, Kula D? Everybody pick their character. You know, that's a very good point, Izzy. It's surprising that they didn't just make a CDX and call it a day. I agree with that, but I don't know if the technology lined up, because the Sega CDX came out... Didn't that come out way later than the Sega CD? And I think they cranked out the Sega CD so quick because they're just copying off exactly how NEC did their Turbo CD. Yeah, even though I'm not playing that great, I still gotta say this character feels way better than Axe Battler. Her speed is very welcomed. Oh wow! The Philips CDI. You know what? That's on my bucket list to play. I've wanted to play the CDI so bad. I've never had an opportunity. It's been on my list to pick up one that would be, you know, feasible. And just experiment with those games everybody say are so terrible. Be a glutton for punishment. That is one of the obscure systems I don't have. I do have a 3DO, as you guys know, and I got a good stock of inventory for that, and I got a Jaguar. But, no CDI. I have yet to play that one. And actually, one of the great Holy Grail systems that I'd love to get one day, and the funny thing is I have games for it, but I don't have the system, is a Super Graphics. I want to get a Super Graphics really bad, because I actually have the Ghouls and Ghosts exclusive, the Super Graphics, but obviously I don't have the system, but I found the game for an awesome deal, and I just couldn't say no. And then, you know, I've had the game for years, and it's like, yeah, I still haven't found a Super Graphics for a reasonable price. Those are not too common in the States around here. ColecoVision, that's another one I do not have. I have Intellivision, but I do not have ColecoVision. And I don't think I've ever played the ColecoVision either. I'm missing out on that one. How did I get this guy? It's like impossible with this fire. There we go. We got him. I thought I only got two. Oh, the PSP is a great system to pick up, and it's not very expensive, so I'd strongly recommend grabbing a PSP if you can. That's a system that's really underappreciated and has a very, very good exclusive library to it. I mean, there's some real cool Sony titles, like an exclusive, there's a couple exclusive Grand Theft Autos on there. There's a couple, there's an exclusive Twisted Metal on there. Of course, the exclusive Ultimate Ghouls and Ghosts. Of course, that had to be on a handheld. Heaven forbid have that on a main console so you can, you know, not have to go through all the trouble of I did when I did that video to put it on the big screen for everyone. Oh man, now we're going down the Tandy world? What are we talking about that for? Get the Tandy rolling. A system that is pretty funny that I do have is still, like I said, I got a box Commodore 64 in the back from a place that was just getting rid of everything and gave it to me. I'm like, I'll take it. I still have not bothered hooking up that one. It's just so crowded in the game room, it's like, man, I really gotta make some room before I get anything set up. Yeah, the PSP, I think, is a real nice system overall, especially the Model 2. You know, the Model 1 is a big old brick, and the Model 2 is just right, you know. They slimmed it down, they corrected other issues with it. I think it actually has better battery life, and is all the way go around. Now they do have that, you know, the PSP Go. That one's pretty cool, but it's only really cool for more of the portability sake of it. But the PSP Go really isn't that great if you have a regular PSP and you rather have more screen size, because they do sacrifice the screen size on those things. Besides the obvious UMD drive that got removed. Good old PSP Go, though. Yeah, that's the crazy part about the PSP Go, having to have those digital versions. What kind of nonsense is that? You know, who's got... Are those... I wonder if in this day and age, can you have a PSP Go and still download those games? Because if you can't, the PSP Go just eventually becomes useless. I mean, unless you mod it, obviously, and then you use it for emulation purposes. Because I know the mod scene for the PSP is a very large mod/hack scene, I should say, for it, all the things you can do. That PSP was a powerful piece of equipment for its time, man. I remember when it came out, I thought it was pretty cool, but I just stuck with Nintendo because it was... I'm pretty sure the Nintendo system, but it was just the DS at the time. I'm pretty sure that was cheaper. And, besides being cheaper, it still had all the, you know, titles that I'm used to and expect, like your Mario junk, and pretty much the Mario Karts were always great on the handhelds I like keeping up with. Ah, you got a... That's a good one to have, Coola D. You got a Neo Geo CD? That's pretty cool. I actually have a Neo Geo CDZ. I don't know if you guys were around for that one stream that I did back in the day. But it was the, remember me and Eric, we did the exclusive on it. It was Crosswords 2. That game was fun. Crosswords 2 is just a breath of fresh air compared to Crosswords 1. I mean, don't get me wrong, Crosswords 1 was pretty cool for its time. Alright, give these guys the business. But Crosswords 2 was just so much more fun to play, and the character selection and the speed of the game just flew so much better. I remember reading not too long ago that somebody found a way to, I believe, take the CD version of Crosswords 2 and somehow they got it to work on an actual cartridge. So you'd have to buy a cartridge version of it, because that's one of the big disappointments if you have a Neo Geo. That's one of the best titles you probably missed out on, being exclusive to the Neo Geo CD. I don't know how many other titles are really exclusive to the Neo Geo CD. Because I remember a lot of them were just, you know, regular cartridge games for the Neo Geo in CD form. As I was saying, probably the best model you're looking for a PSP, Coola D, is look for the 2000, PSP 2000 or better. I think it's just basically the slim model, they call it. So if you get a 2000 or 3000, those are about your best bang for your buck. The 2000s usually come in black, red and blue. I got myself a Madden blue one at the time, which I was really happy with. It's pretty cool looking. And they also have like the red special version for God of War. And then I think there's a 3000 model you can get that's green, and that's the Metal Gear Solid version. So if you are preferential to a certain color of the console you want, then you'd have to go that way. Because I think the Metal Gear one's a PSP 3000. But no, the 2000 came in a lot of colors, and I think there's also a... good point, Funky. As Funky said, 2000, 3000 have that port for the video out, so then you can get composite or component, depending on which cables to get, and that alone is well worth it, because that video out cable does work very well. Now what I did in, my older video is I actually got the component out cables. It was like the component, and I converted it to HDMI with a special converter for the PSP specifically made. And it came out pretty good. That's when we did the Ultimate Ghouls and Ghosts episode a long time ago. That's a couple of years back. But that was pretty much my big, humongous reason of why I made sure I got a PSP is for the Ghouls and Ghosts series. I like having that being playable and able to handle it. Now, you do have a... Oh, really? The 3000? You know what? I don't own a 3000, so I'm glad you brought that up. Is it just any 3000? Because I do know they do change things with all the models. The 2000s, I'm really happy with the video on them and everything. I have a couple 2000 models, and then I have a Go model, a PSP Go. So I've actually never owned or played on a 3000. I have played on a 1000, but I don't own a 1000. That one's just a brick, is what I remember. It was like holding the Wii U controller, the tablet controller. It felt like. Now, Ultimate Ghouls and Ghosts, it has all those options to make the game easier, so that one works out really well. It's not as brutal. You can make the Ultimate Ghouls and Ghosts be as hard or as easy as you'd like. That's what's cool about that one. You can give yourself hit points and everything, or you can play an old school mode. So I think that one is probably your most friendly version of the game you're going to get. These skeletons are by far the bane of my existence in this game. I take enough hits too, dang it. Well, you know what, with the 3000, you never know, and just the PSP in general, depending on what you played on, what the condition it was it a brand new 3000? Was it some used one at a pawn shop that may actually have a bad screen? You never know. But I do remember reading about those when I was buying my PSP, and everybody kept saying the 2000 over the 3000 regardless. So, you do have a point. I mean, there's a different screen on every model. Just like the original PS Vita, I have a Vita, but mine is the second version of it. And I've never played on the original, and everybody swears that the OLED screen on the original is way better than the cheaper LCD screen they put on the next one, so that really shows how Sony rolls with their handhelds. I mean, Sony is one of those that, for the most part, they seem to just always scale back after they make a console. They seem to cheapen it somehow to an extent. And sometimes it doesn't make a big difference when they do it, and other times it just is significant. I mean, when I think of the PS2, it's like, wow, I'm glad I never got a launch PS2 because that thing had a slew of issues with it. And they really didn't get the PS2 perfected until they made the PS2 Slim, from what I understand. And then you got the PS3 with the original model, which is the most badass looking console of all time in my book. I think it's an awesome looking console. But the thing runs like a jet engine and overheats constantly, and has all the backwards compatibility if the game could play long enough for the system caught fire. So, I mean, there's just so many pros and cons. Yeah, the battery life on the PSPs, they weren't fantastic, but I'm with you on TV. I actually have a rule for launch day consoles. The only launch day consoles I ever buy are Nintendo ones, because I think it's the reverse. I think Nintendo actually releases the best model first, and then they scale them back. I mean, look at the GameCube. The original model's the best because it has the extra port for the DVI, for the digital feed for video. Then you look at the Wii. The Wii had GameCube support on the original model, and then later models they took it away. So it's like, man. So Nintendo is the one that I feel confident in getting the original model. The only time that rule, I guess, doesn't work as well is you could argue possibly the Super Nintendo, because the Super Nintendo Mini is slightly better. If you RGB mod it, you can get better video out of it. I mean, it's not a dramatic difference, but it still exists. And, what's the other one? Original Nintendo, you can easily argue because, well, you know what, I take that back. Original Nintendo, it's pick your poison. Because you had the original toaster, and that supported composite. But then they came out with the top loader, which fixed all the issues with the games loading. But guess what? They screwed it up by not having it do composite anymore natively, which was crazy. So you'd have to get it modded. Yeah, the backwards compatibility on the PS2 was phenomenal. I really appreciated how they did that. And it's kind of funny how things have changed now. PlayStation has kind of moved away from being backwards compatible, and it seems like Xbox has taken that flag of working on backwards compatibility, because, I mean, I've actually popped in a couple original Xbox games on my Xbox One, and they actually play and look phenomenal. They look even better, and I just get slaughtered here. And now PlayStation's like, yeah, Wayne's backwards compatibility. Too bad. I mean, I'm really curious when it comes to the PS4. I mean, when the PS5 comes out, are they going to support PS4 games? Because I think it's going to be... that's going to be pretty ridiculous if they don't support PS4 games on PS5. The old jump and swing like that, huh? That's a good idea. Yeah, I mean, I just wish these gaming companies would make up their mind, though, at the end of the day. They should either decide and stick with, being backwards compatible or not. And if they're not going to do it anymore, I mean, if they're not going to have a good reason for not doing it, like the Nintendo Switch, okay, obviously it can't be backwards compatible with Wii U and games because it's a completely different type of console. It doesn't take the same medium like CDs. But if you're going to have like a CD, DVD, Blu-ray, whatever base console, then you should minimally, in my opinion, support at least the previous generation before it. Just like Xbox did and the Wii did. The Wii supported GameCube, so you got a full library of games and a new library coming. That's the best way to do it. Yeah, the mounts are pretty tricky to use in this one, TV. I must admit. This will be a long day of doing this. And then, like I said, PlayStation was doing a great job with the PS3. Originally, they're like, oh, we support PS1, PS2, PS3 games. I'm like, wow, that just got me sold. And Xbox was doing Xbox and Xbox 360, but it wasn't fully backwards compatible, but pretty decent. Had a decent backwards compatibility. And now it just seems like Sony's backpedaling. They're like, nope, PS4, we don't even support PS3 games. That's what really irritated me, is the PS4 should have supported PS3 games that weren't digital downloads. And the games that you can digital download that are PS3 and play on your PS4, why the hell can't you put those games CDs in your PS4 and play them? Because I don't think you can, I'm guessing. Maybe you can, but I doubt it. I do have the Sega CD version of Golden Axe, and it's funny that you mention that because the Sega CD version is only single player. That's the one where they really screwed up the game in the port. It doesn't support two players for whatever reason. I will say this character has by far the coolest magic. Yeah, I don't know why Microsoft names their consoles so jacked. I mean, I know Sony's is pretty simplistic, but I don't know why they didn't just kind of do something similar with Microsoft. I mean, it's so easy to have a conversation. Are you talking PS1, 2, 3, 4, or 5? I mean, done. And at least Nintendo has, you know, variant names that work. But this Xbox 360, then Xbox One to make it even... I would prefer them call it Xbox 720. Yeah, I have no clue. And now they got, and then they make it even crazier. It's like Xbox One S and Xbox One X, and it's like they make things way more complicated than they need to be in a naming convention. Drives me nuts. Well, only got slightly farther with her. Slightly farther. But did I get a better score than last time is the question. Nope, I got a D and a D. Well, you know what? I think the rule of thumb is to go with the character that I always used back in the day. I gotta get better than the letter D at least. I mean, this is just embarrassing. I think the whole problem is we're just not using the right character. The guy that has an axe and Golden Axe. You know, I never paid attention if it's the same dialogue for each character. I think each one has different dialogue, possibly. Yeah, I'm with TV. I'm shooting for a C- at least. We got to get passing here, guys. We got to get passing. And this is not a good start for passing. Yeah, I like how Sega always throws the characters in different series and games like that. It's like in Crusader of Senti, they got Sonic thrown in there for cameos, and like you mentioned, this game they had, I can't even remember what his full name is, Thunder Helm or something. I just call him the guy with the dwarf with the axe. The non-golden axe. I mean, was it that hard, Sega, to put a gold tint on this axe that he's got? I still want to know why they didn't make his axe gold. I will say this guy's got some decent speed, and his weapon's got a nice wide range. He really does handle, I almost want to say, the best. Axe Battler, though, he's the way he handled was pretty rough. He's by far my last choice in this game, I'm gonna have to say. Oh, and how do I get off this thing? Is there a way to get off of it? No. There's gotta be a way to get off the... Oh, he's gonna finally do that. Well, I completely missed that, but I didn't need the magic anyway. Wow, this guy's magic is super weak. That's where he suffers. He's only got 3. I think even Axe Battler's got more magic than this guy. Well, I guess it'll be easier to refill. There you go, Gilius Thunderhead. Genesis CD32X multiplayer games. Well, when it comes to the Sega Genesis multiplayer games that are my favorite, I'd have to say General Chaos is a big one. Streets of Rage series, definitely. That's a multiplayer go-to at all times. Can't go wrong with that one. And, multiplayer games, you're bringing up a good question. Makes you think a lot differently, because you think of so many Sega Genesis games, you're like, well, how many of those are you doing multiplayer, though? And Sega CD, you know what? I can't even think. When I had Sega CD games back in the day, I can't even think of any of the games I had that were even multiplayer. I had a lot of the FMV games. I still gotta get an Action 52 one of these days. I am so, you know what, I'd even settle for a Sega Genesis Action 52 if I could come across one, because I promise you guys, if I ever get a hold of an Action 52, me and Eric will chunk through every one of them in a game night. That's the goal, because I want to create a video that shows the perspective of playing an Action 52 with 2 players. Because everybody that's reviewed it that I've seen, they just go through every game as 1 player, and surprisingly, the Action 52 has a lot of 2-player games on it. So it's like, you know what? Share the fun with a second player on the Action 52. So Sega CD, I can't even think of a multiplayer game because I didn't have any. I had Sonic CD, and I had a lot of FMV games, and those aren't really multiplayer games. The only multiplayer game I had on the Sega CD was Final Fight. So I guess that's my favorite multiplayer game on the Sega CD is Final Fight. And then for the 32X, I mean, obviously I did my top 10 32X games. So I'd say whichever was on my top 10 that's actually multiplayer. I'm trying to think, what was multiplayer? That motocross game was multiplayer. That game's pretty rough. That one barely made the list, but it's unique and fun in its own way. I mean, Mortal Kombat 2's on there, but that's such a cheeseball game. That's on everything. Well, that's a good goal to have. You should do all the multiplayer games when you hit that landmark there. That's great. I can't reach that other magic there, but there's one here anyway, so it don't matter. Yeah, what other game is really 2-player other than, like, didn't they have, like, Primal Rage on the 32X, and then they had, like, all the Virtua Fighter on the 32X, so I guess that would be a go-to 2-player game for me. Virtua Racing, that wasn't split-screen 2-player, I don't think, on 32X. That was only single-player. Yeah, Virtua Racing, I don't know how to say it, but the 32X version, I know it's inferior to the Saturn version, but It is just the most fun one to play of all of them. Virtual Racing. Hey, they stole my goods here. Well, my magic's already full because I have this character, so it's not really necessary. Look at how many this guy's got. Favorite game on every system I own? You are just getting me with the questions. It is hard for me to go and say favorite game for every system I own. I have to divide by genres because I'm pretty diverse with most of the video game system libraries, but I mean, if I'm just shooting from the hip, I'll at least try to give you something to work off of. I mean, a good way to think about it is, what's a game that I will actually fire up a system for? So, for example, like the PSP, I'd fire up the PSP to play the Ultimate Ghouls and Ghosts, so that's probably one of my favorite games on the PSP. And when it comes to the original NES, man, so many great games. But I think of games that I occasionally fire it up for, and I mean, Gun Knack is one that I think of. That is one of the shooters that I really enjoy playing on the NES, and Crisis Force. So those are ones that I fire up. And you can never go wrong with some Mega Man 2 or 3 on the NES at any time. If I'm just in an NES mood, I usually gravitate to a Mega Man classic that I ain't played in a while. Oh, Paperboy 64. I've never played the 64 version of Paperboy. I think I've seen it before. It's pretty rough. I actually, it's a guilty pleasure. I do kind of enjoy Paperboy on the NES. That one is that's a fun pick up and play game for like 15-20 minutes. That's nothing you want to play too long or you'll go crazy. Yeah, Gun Knack's some gold right there. But I wouldn't call it a guilty pleasure though. Gun Knack's actually a good game. I don't know, there should be no guilt in playing Gun Knack, Izzy. No guilt in that one. Now, if you said your favorite game was, like, Back to the Future on the NES, then that's a guilty pleasure, my friend. Wow, Atari Lynx. I actually have an Atari Lynx. I've never done a video on it yet. It's still buried in my tubs of the collection that I don't have room to have out in the game room. I tell you, we really got to move one of these days so I can have a game room that actually accommodates all the video games that I've collected over the years. That's what really prevents me from doing, more diverse videos, is just getting the stuff out. Because I spend half the day digging the stuff out, and setting it up, and finding a way to record it depending on what it is, and man, it'd just be nice if everything was a lot easier to get and play. So if you ever see me do a video that's Atari Jaguar based or something, then really appreciate the time and effort I went through to plug that stuff up to record it, because that is not easy and ready to go at any time. Atari Jaguar. That one's always buried. Pretty much all the Atari stuff is buried, because I like Atari, but I didn't really grow up with it. I grew up with the original Nintendo and Intellivision, and I only played Atari here and there. So I get it, it's got a charm, but it's just nothing that I'm really into, probably due to nostalgia. But the Lynx, man, I haven't played that Lynx in a long time. Ah, Blazing Lasers, that's some good stuff. And the TurboGrafx 16, there are just so many good games that I enjoy popping in on that one. Like you said, Blazing Lasers, Legendary Axe comes to mind. The new Adventure Island game, that's probably my favorite to play Adventure Island games, is the TurboGrafx 16 version, because the other versions, the NES just looks like garbage after you play it on the TurboGrafx 16. And then for Sega Genesis, it's the usual exclusives. If I'm in a mood for, you know, some old school Sonic or pretty much any arcade action. Kind of what's on this Genesis collection, to be honest. But Micro Machines is a big one that I really enjoy on the Sega Genesis. That one's a blast. I like beating that one every now and then. Is the Atari 2600 still pretty cheap to collect for? Is that a thing that it's still... I remember when, back in the day, Atari games were like 25 cents, 50 cents at places. And I could just walk out... I could walk out with a grocery bag full of Atari games for like $5, $10. I wonder if their value ever really came up. Man. That'd be interesting to collect for. Me? See you later, Cooler D. Thanks for dropping by, buddy. Yeah, for me, I'd have to say if I was to focus on finishing a collection, I ideally want to finish... Dang it, I'm gonna get out of this spot. I ideally want to finish my NES US release collection. You know, all US releases, because I'm about 38 games short of a full NES US license collection. And that's for carts. I do have boxes for maybe about 100 of the games, but I'm just trying to go for carts. Manuals, if I can get them, great. But besides that one, another system that I think would be great to get a full collection for is actually the Wii U. Because the Wii U only had 151 games physically released. So I think that'd be awesome. That would actually be fairly easy of a collection to complete. Because it's only 150 games, and, you know, I think the value for a lot of Wii U games are pretty low to just pick them all up. So to have a full collection of the Wii U would probably be a fun thing to try to do. And the Sega Master System if you went for a US collection, because I think that's another one. It only had like 100 titles. Well, I know about the shovelware that's all over those systems, but I'm only talking about physical releases for the complete collection. I mean, if you're talking about DLC, well, then that's a whole nother animal. I think the Wii actually has all the shovelware. The Wii U, I don't even think nobody cared to... I think Nintendo was the biggest publisher for all the games on the Wii U. They didn't get any real third-party support on that system. Everybody was too busy making games for all the other consoles. They said, the heck with the Wii U. Well, I do have that, I do have the Virtual Boy still in the box ever since that we shelved the whole system. I haven't played it since we shelved that whole system. The Virtual Boy is a torture device, really. I really don't understand how anybody in their right mind could genuinely find, you know, enjoyment or pleasure out of ever playing that system. After what me and Eric went through playing that system, yikes. That's right up there with playing the PSVR and this game. Yeah, the Virtual Boy is just suicide for your eyeballs. That's it? Yeah, the Virtual Boy, I pretty much just keep mine as a conversation piece. Nothing that you bust out playing for me. How many people are playing BB right now? You know, that's a great question, TV. I think I'm going to go with, I could count on one hand how many people are playing right now, if any. Well, you can't go wrong with these. I love how the characters that the creatures that you ride work really well for the computer, but not so hot for me. Got in the middle. Messed up that one. Yeah, that's another concern of mine when they announced the PS5. I wonder if the PS5 is going to be backwards compatible with the PSVR. Because just think about the people that have made the substantial investment and commitment for the PSVR. And then, hey, you're talking, oh well, the PS5, you gotta buy what, the PSVR for the PS5? Because that would be pretty crazy if that's how it worked. Ah, the Menacer. That's another peripheral that I don't have and I've never played was the Sega Menacer. I've never heard anything good about the Sega Menacer, though. I think it's actually much worse than the Super Scope from what I hear, which I do have the Super Scope. We did that fun video. That Super Scope was actually fairly entertaining for what it is, and if you had the full library available, like Battle Clash and Yoshi's Safari, I think you could get a good amount of entertainment out of the Super Scope if you have all the games for it. Okay, sit still, these dumb things. That's true. The Super Scope was not cheap at all. I didn't have one back in the day. I've got my Super Scope for dirt cheap on eBay back in the day, and it came in the box. It was like, here you go, and I think I got it for like $5-10 bucks. So I was happy when I got mine on eBay, like in 2004. And I played with it then. And of course, the box that it came with, the Super Scope looks brand new, and the receiver, the IR receiver, turned yellow. I'm like, great, good job, Nintendo. Have they ever figured out what type of plastic to use for consoles? It drives you nuts. You know what's really a light gun game hidden gem is the original Wii. I think the Wii is the way to go because they have that House of the Dead remake on the Wii. There was that Zelda game, the crossbow game. I remember getting that when it came out, and that worked well on the Wii. Then there was even like the Wii Play game that was they had like shooting duck hunt levels in it and stuff, and it handled great. I actually really enjoyed playing light gun games on the Wii. How the heck did they get me in midair jumping? They apparently gotta jump and hack everybody. They're gonna get anywhere. Yeah, the only House of the Dead that's even a good combatant against the Wii version would probably be what, the Typing of the Dead. You can't go wrong with that one. Oh man. Okay, we actually killed a skeleton. Braggable. Wow, that's a homing missile apparently. You gotta really jump for that one. I haven't tried out jumping that in time. Okay, these skeletons ever die? Can't stop this guy's axe. Exit timing on this guy is tricky. Okay, probably gotta do something like this the whole time. How many chops to the head can this guy take? Well, don't crowd his space, that's for sure. Well, this is Junior. I'm not looking forward to Senior. All this game does is remind me how much certain games I cannot really find a lot of enjoyment without a second player, and this is definitely one of them. Sheesh. Well, so far we've gotten farther with this character. At least we're getting some gratitude. About time somebody gave it to me. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Let's go battle for him again. Why not? I'm crossing my fingers for the C- TV. Good point. Maybe at least one rescue's gotta be passing, right? We rescued somebody in the game. We didn't beat it, but we rescued somebody. This screen better move over. That was awkward. Ah! There we go. Let's get him out of the way. There we go. That's how it's done. Oh, of course, you're going to take 50 hits before I can do anything. Fantastic. Okay, you don't have your skeleton friend sit there and rescue you. Not so tough without him, are you? Yikes. Ah, I got bad guys and these guys. Too many. No! Gotta get this guy out of my grill. There we go. Well said, TV, well said. How the hell are these skeletons even dying? Since they're the damn best fighters in the game. Alright, there's the good fighters. Okay, why don't you guys switch sides with me so we can throw you in that hole over there? Does that sound good? No, of course not. Oh, we're gonna have statues too? That's cool. Let's have everybody just join the whole party, and I'll just get in the middle of everything. I will say this axe jump is pretty much the go-to in this game. It's just like chopping lumber. There we go. Finally. Oh, great. They brought the whole crew here. The whole crew. Let's switch sides. Start with that. See if we can chop you off the screen, maybe. No time for you, old man. Next. Get you over here. I wonder if it hurts my grade like this is cheating. If you throw them off the side. probably survive that one. Uh-oh. Death Adder Senior does not look very welcoming, guys. Yeah, one hit. I'm done. And of course we run out of credits. At least we saw it though. Yeah, one hit and done. Well, that was an interesting run to say. Oh, look at that though. We got a passing grade, guys. We got the passing grade. Look at that. A B. Not even C minus. What do you think about that? So the real question is, how accepting is it to get that grade? You know what? I think I got enough practice. Hopefully. It is a shame that there is no infinite continues here. And the options, all you can do is bring up your life meter. That's it. That's the best advantage you're going to get. Sound test. They can't even bump up the lives for you, unfortunately. Well, I gotta say, hands down, you want to use this man. Okay, we got the B. I'm assuming that was the final Death Adder, and if I actually had, hopefully, a credit, or at least 3 lives or so, once I got to him, that would have been fine, but I don't think there's any way to get extra lives in this game, or credits, is there? It's just, it is what it is in this game. You use the credits or you don't. Okay, well, if he was the final boss, at least I got to him, so I'm thinking if I just actually concentrate a little bit, we might be able to pull it off. Might be able to pull it off tonight, we'll see. Gotta be hell-bent. Can't just leave Golden Axe hanging without it being beat, you know? The only thing it really... I mean, I guess it's kind of an advantage if you think about it. His strongest magic only takes 4 vials. But it's definitely very anticlimactic considering the magic of the other characters. Okay, how many times are you gonna miss that? Yeah, you know what? I'm about ready to just say to heck with these creatures, man. Unless you're the computer, don't use a creature. Because you're not going to get any advantages from it. Ugh. So is anybody else getting overwhelmed by how many good games are coming out left and right, so you just can't keep up with it anymore? I try to think back in the past, it's like, were games always that overwhelming of what was available? I wonder if there was always just that many games going on back in the day, in the 8 and 16-bit era days. Or was it, I just wasn't aware of it as much, like all the information avenues nowadays with the internet and everything else that keeps you so up to date on games that are coming out, and that games that you may have missed. It just gets extremely overwhelming. Alright. The best way to enjoy some chicken wings is with Golden Axes, you know that. I hope they were hot wings. It's the only way to have them. Yeah, it's kind of funny that you brought up the multiple console thing, because I remember back in the day, it was madness. You really had one or the other, and I just remember a couple of kids in my class that actually had a Sega Genesis and a Super Nintendo, And I noticed a pattern. The kids that actually had two consoles, either their parents or their older siblings were into video games. So it's not like it was just them asking for a console. See, in my house, I was the only one who played video games. I mean, my sisters played it a little bit here and there, but they never really had a console of their own or gave a crap about it. And the kids I remember in school that had a Super Nintendo and a Sega Genesis were like, oh, well, they had two older brothers that were in high school or college, and they were actually saving up and spending their money to have, and he just had the luxury that he could play it. So it's like, wow, that must have been amazing back then, to have a Sega Genesis and Super Nintendo. Yeah, I mean, I think that's really a big portion of the console wars back then, because not many people, I think, could afford, whoops, hit the wrong button, could afford actually both platforms. So it's like, you know what, you invested all this time and money in a certain console, you're darn right you're going to defend it with everything you got, because you don't want to admit that you spent money on the wrong one. Yeah, that's true. Oh, man. But yeah, for me, I literally had to switch sides. Like I said, I had the Intellivision and then the NES, and I was sold on Nintendo. And to tell you the truth, I was just so impatient, I think, because I was an impatient kid. I went with the Sega Genesis because the Super Nintendo just wasn't around, and I'm like, man, I can't wait any longer. I want some 16-bit action, and I don't regret it now that I look back, just because at the end of the day, the Genesis library just fits my taste better. I mean, don't get me wrong, there's a lot of games on the Super Nintendo that I love dearly, but the Sega Genesis just had way more arcade titles. I don't know why everybody just says, oh, Sega's a sports system. Yeah, they had sport games, and they probably had more and better sport games than Super Nintendo at the time. But if you look at the entire library, that wasn't like its main focus. I mean, Sega Genesis, I think of Sega Genesis as an arcade machine for your home console needs. It had all these arcade ports, like we're playing right now, Golden Axe, or it had Shinobi, or it had, well, it's hard to say arcade direct ports. You'd have like Dick Tracy, you'd have variations, but still, it's arcade fun games the Genesis had in total, way more than the Super Nintendo, in my opinion. Okay, now I'm just making too many dumb mistakes here. This is annoying. Let's throw that out. Of course, we're gonna have a skeleton. But you know what character I want to be? I want to be the skeleton in this game. I want all his moves. You know, the guy that gives you health, he should be around, stick around more to take more hits out of. Yeah, both would be the way. But then it's funny, because I was all pro Sega throughout the 16-bit era, and then, I think it was 1995, I saved up and I got a Super Nintendo for cheap because, you know, it's at the end of the life cycle for the Super Nintendo. And I got one at Funcoland. Of course, that was piss yellow, because that's how Funcoland does you back then. I wasn't smart enough to look at it when I was a dumb kid saving up money for it. But regardless, it worked. And I remember the games that I bought with it was, it came to Super Mario World when I bought it, and I got Super Castlevania, I got Zelda, I got Mario Kart, and I want to say Donkey Kong Country, possibly. So I just remember getting all those games with it, and it was awesome. I did like a super catch-up Oh, and Super Ghouls and Ghosts might have been mixed in there somewhere. But regardless, I enjoyed those games, right? And it kind of tied me over until the N64 came out, and I switched over to the N64 because I had a Sega Genesis, I had a Sega CD, and I had a 32X. And you know what? Sega disappointed me too many times. And once I saw the price tag of a Sega Saturn, there's no way in hell any parent for any occasion I could combine my birthday and Christmas and not get a Sega Saturn. I want to say it came out and it was what, like $400 or $500 when it came out. It was insanity. Good luck convincing somebody to spend that kind of money. I mean, I remember cashing out my entire birthday for an N64 in one game. That's all I wanted. I told everybody, just put money in a pot. That's all I wanted. And it paid off because the game that I was smart enough to get was Mario Kart, or not Mario Kart, I mean Super Mario 64, which well kept me busy. That game alone could keep you busy for ages, especially back then. Man, that's one game that I've only beaten once and never revisited. Never beat Super Mario 64 again. Just only beat it that one time. Tiger handhelds. You're really going crazy with that one. Oh yeah, and then when Ocarina of Time came out on N64, I had plenty of enjoyment there, man. Ocarina of Time, how much time I sank into that. I totally did everything. I had every item. I had the goldfish thing. I had every heart piece. I made sure to 100% complete that game just because I could never get enough of it. But you know what's funny is I only beat it once on the N64 Ocarina of Time, my original cartridge. And I want to say I beat it a second time on the GameCube when they did that special Zelda collection release. That's when I beat it a second time. I think the same goes for Majora's Mask. I beat it once. I probably should be using this. I guess I wasn't paying attention. I beat it once on N64 and then I beat it again if it was offered. I think it was offered on that GameCube Zelda collection. You know what drives me nuts is why didn't they include the Super Nintendo version of Zelda on that GameCube Zelda collection? They completely skipped like the most iconic one. Very interesting. It's funny when you compare everybody else's video game console timeline. What was your first system? What was your first system? And then what was your second system? And then just kind of evaluate and be like, you know, what direction did you go in and why? I mean, I'm sure I'm not the only one that switched from Sega back to Nintendo again after the stuff they pulled. And to tell you the truth, the N64 just nailed it because it was a perfect storm for that system because I feel it was really a time for multiplayer madness. And I mean, with your Mario Kart, your Mario Party, GoldenEye, Perfect Dark, Diddy Kong Racing, all those excellent wrestling games for the time that have not aged well at all. You know, it's just kind of funny and interesting looking back at all those. Because really, on my N64, GoldenEye was one hell of a go-to for a long time. It was like I couldn't even remember that ever getting old. I remember having like a GameCube and still firing up GoldenEye and being like, yep, let's do this 4 players. Yeah. I think it's safe to say nobody wants to revisit the Virtual Boy. Very good call. What kind of stinks about Golden Axe that I just noticed is between levels, you just get those guys to knock the health out of. That's it. You do not get your health doesn't refill. And if you're sleeping by a campfire, shouldn't you at least get a full health refill? I mean, it's pretty crazy when you're not getting a full health refill. Right. And there's the skeleton, the best fighter ever. You know, Death Adder would be I know why Death Adder has skeletons on his side, because I don't think he could handle 2 skeletons fighting him. Yeah, I wouldn't want to say that this game is even tough. I just don't think I'm playing it or utilizing my moveset properly. I don't know if there's a moveset that I'm missing or what. Because, you know, a funny story is I didn't own the original Golden Axe, this one, until much later. It's actually Golden Axe 2 I had as a kid. And I'm more familiar, and I remember that one having more of a moveset than this one. This one's lacking in the moveset, because I remember there was a really convenient spin move that you could do with this character that I would really depend on in tight positions, and it always worked out pretty well for me. Alright, let's hope that there's a guy with health here. How about a couple health hits here? Yeah, only one health hit, of course. Yeah, the hitbox is a little wonky in this one. A little wonky. And bring them all down. Hey, you're supposed to be falling down and dying, not killing me. So much for that. Oh man, they put you on the wrong side, of course. I think, aren't all the Golden Axes pretty short games? I know, I'm pretty sure Golden Axe 2 is a little bit longer. I remember beating that one a lot because that's one I owned as a kid, and it's like, yeah, let's bust that one out. And the cool thing about Golden Axe 2 is that's an exclusive. I mean, this is a port of an arcade, and correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think they made a Golden Axe 2 arcade. So, if you wanted Golden Axe 2, you only get it on the Sega Genesis. Yeah, I was always wondering about that bird that you ride on here. I think it's a bird that you ride. I don't think it's a corpse. I just don't think whoever programmed it could handle the animation for it. Yeah, the Golden Axe Duel, that's not exactly a braggable exclusive, but yeah, that one did exist. Yeah, Golden Axe 3, now that one wasn't in the US, wasn't that one released for only the Mega Drive? It wasn't for the Genesis at all. And that one's actually on this collection, so, you know, we're getting our taste of original Golden Axe tonight. One and done. Oh, now they're throwing you really into the fun here. Alright, well, we're all filled. And of course, Europe gets the good Golden Axe 3, but we'll be able to get to that one maybe eventually. We'll see how much Gold Axe tolerance I got. I think you just gotta keep moving and keep yourself off the ground in this game. Because it seems like when there's a lot of guys and you're on the ground for too long, they can really bombard you. Yikes. Alright, now it's just me and Mr. Hammerman. Yeah, in Golden Axe 2, they changed all these Hammermen into, they're like wolf guys with maces instead of hammers. Those are always pretty cool and menacing looking enemies, better than these big fat guys with hammers. These guys don't seem as menacing. And they bring on the skeletons. That's when I bring this out. Say it's go time. And the skeletons dodge, because, you know, they're skeletons, so they are that good. Of course. How many hits are we going to have here for these skeletons? Hello. You know what, Death Adder Jr.? I've really had it with your crap here. Take your little cronies with you. Yeah, everybody's perfectly aligned out of my fighting, but when I'm going after them, I'm with you, man. The life bars is one of the big missing things. It's just a guessing game. It's like, okay, we could chop at them all day, but really, you know, what good is this going to do for us here? And I didn't even know with this Death Adder Juniors, this is pretty much the same way you got to fight regular Death Adder, I'm assuming. Well, you can't chop at them. Oops. Coming up short on that one. There, we got a few hits in on that one. Yep, infinite health here, all day with this guy. Just keep on chopping. Finally. Whew. Alright, so we get our passing grade here at least. There we go. Let's get that passing grade. Now, I think I have 1 credit, so if I don't screw up too bad, we might have a sporting chance on good old Death Adder. Well, I love how my present and gratitude is, hey, go in that door and go fight some more. No breaks for you. You know, nobody's concerned about how I feel or what I've been through to save you two bozos. Yeah, typical, yes, my lord. Fantastic. Now this is where it gets fun. Yeah, this is where we just run off and hope for the best. Oh, man. Cutting it close there. Yikes. Exactly, Ryu. Your princess is in another castle. It's like, thanks for all this help, but we need some even more help. It's like, great. Playing these games all day. Man, you gotta like count these hits. Still? Really? I think getting horned in the face with this guy's helmet would do more damage than they're giving it. That's some sloppy moves on my part there. That's a double-edged sword with this, Okay, get this out of my way. Well, they've given me so many of these, but I guess they gotta cover all the people that actually can use it. Yeah, I'm loving the falling in this game, so this is it. This is our 3, and we can't screw up too much more, and I'm sick of dealing with this thing. That's great. I don't need any more of your dumb vials. And just can't jump fast enough. There we go. And, whoa, we're cutting me close. You know what's interesting is those crazy statues up there that look like interesting enemies. Those don't come to life. I guess I shouldn't be looking at those. Should be paying attention to what I'm doing here. Great. More of this fun. That's just cheap with that long range. Yikes. Was not expecting that. That almost got myself in trouble. Come on, you. And well, I gotta bring him over somehow, or just hit him a million times. Who knows how much of gold one of these guys take. I'm guessing in speedruns they have it down cold to just throw everybody, or get them to walk right off the screen. Yeah, just count those hits. Good times. All day. And they throw you right into the man himself here. It's like, yep. Let's give him a surprise and hope for the best. Loving the skeletons here. Oh, that's nice. That doesn't look like that's anything you can even dodge with this guy. He's just going to have magic that pretty much takes you out no matter what. Good old Death Adder cheat magic. Eight and a half minutes is a standard run. Yeah, I guess I made this a little bit longer than I should have, apparently. Okay, well... Wow. Can you not, jump... This is ridiculous! Okay, apparently I should be focusing on Death Adder because he keeps doing all this magic I can't handle. And I was trying to take out these skeletons quick, but that just is not working for me. Great! Wow. All magic he had. Well, that's what I get for a college try. Dang it. Yeah, I love that magic spamming that he gets. I wish I had half the magic he did. Well, you know what, guys? It looks like tonight I am just a B student. I like TV's logic here. That is one of the top 10 cheap bosses. Well, it seems like you really just have to not make many mistakes and have plenty of lives pretty much for Death Adder, because for me, those damn skeletons, everything else in the way, really chewed it all up. But for me, I can't really handle much more of this, to say the least. I'm really curious, what the heck is beginner? Is beginner a mode where you actually play the game and it's only a couple of levels? Or how much easier do they make it for you? Because I got the same amount of lives and I got the same amount of hit points. Oh, he doesn't have dialogue. So what's beginner? Is that something we can actually beat? You know what? Beginner might actually be the first rescue, and then you don't see Death Adder, possibly? I don't know. That's what I'm curious about now. I'll still lose that beginner. Now, I gotta admit, this game is, at least for me, built for 2 players. I just don't have the, I don't have the down cold timing of dealing with all this stuff going on for 1 player. I'm still getting myself cornered, and you know, falling off edges don't help for lives. If I didn't fall off an edge, I might have had another life that would have been a chance. So that's a real trick too to not do. So I'm wondering in beginner mode, what's going to be my big differences here? Oh, my magic's already full, but I got a humor hitting these things all day, apparently. I'm thinking beginner mode is not so many hits on these guys. That's what I'm thinking. You have a very good point. If Eric was here, we would have successfully beaten this. I know we would have. We always have a good balance in these beat 'em ups because he's the more reserved and methodical fighter, and I'm usually the overly offensive player that's just jumping in and doing as much damage as fast as possible. So usually works out well. That's who I probably beat this game last with when I did play it. And actually beat it. Yeah, there's definitely a big difference in how many hits these guys take. Yeah, this is great. It's like, I wish beginner mode was regular mode. Just mowing on through. Well, it's pretty convincing screams. I just noticed that water, like, kicked down out of nowhere down there. Is that, like, part of the story I'm not paying attention to? See, if you get all these extra potions and you don't need them, that should add up to extra life or something. Or at least fill up your health instead. Yeah, these hit points are great on these characters in beginner mode. I'm all about this beginner mode. Oh boy. There we go. Done and done. I forgot to even use the magic on those other characters. That's a good point too. The magic, it should be one or the other. I think a good default for the magic would have been is if it fills up your magic meter and you still get more vials and it's full, then that should just turn into health. Hey, we're on this, this is a fish corpse. This ain't the bird corpse yet, is it? So you gotta ride all these, animals here to get where we're going. Yeah, that should be health, and that should be health. And it's gonna run away. What to do with laughing characters. Just greet them with an axe. Just like real life. Somebody's sitting there mocking you and laughing at you. Just start waving this blunt old axe at them. Who's dead? I just noticed that on there. DEB. You know, that's another thing too, if you think about it. They should have found a way to upgrade your attack, because some of the enemies in this game, they're just way too many hits than they're worth. And not having a life bar really makes things more interesting than you want to deal with. Uh-oh. Gonna get you cornered. So I gotta stay in the air and keep on jumping and swinging. Jump and swing. And you get rewarded with... Why is, Death Adder Jr. already here? Ah, Death Adder Jr. now throws things. Great. Oh, I see. You get, your magic uses up. You get a couple shots with it, so to make things easier, I'm assuming. Actually got a full set of hits on him for that one. I like them moves. Way to miss. I guess that move's easier because... That's it. More training awaits you here. Interesting. So I've never done the beginner mode ever. For whatever reason, I just never bothered. So that's your whole warm-up to the game. Do I get a good score for beginner mode? I got an A! Well, at least I'm an A in, you know, beginner mode. I got that going for me. That's madness. That beginner mode was even shorter than the actual game. Yikes. Well, we put in a good dent. We looked at what we got. All that's left is the duel, which... I don't know. In the duel, can you... do single-player duel? Ah, there we go. Well, we might as well look at all the options while we're here tonight, guys. So it's just going to be one type of villain each time, and you have a certain amount of health. Oh, and a time limit. That's interesting. Yeah, for some reason when it says duel, it just made me think, oh, that's only the two-player when you got picked two of the characters, and boy, is that a long, boring match. Yeah, don't you love that? Now we get the health bar of the enemies. Let's see how long that sticks around. Oh man! But you don't get any music, or not music. I mean magic in this mode. So you're strictly just chopping them up in this one. What exactly is that timer for? You take longer than 30 seconds to fight them? What happens? Can I just have this the whole time? My two favorite guys to go up against. Ugh. I remember they went skeleton crazy in Golden Axe 2. Like every level had like different color skeletons that are at a higher difficulty level. It was just punishing back then. Just punishing. That's all I can think to do with these skeletons, but I don't know if that's going to kill them fast enough. See, the timer went to 0. What? Any type of problem with that? I get 2 of these bozos. I mean, what's the final battle in the duel? You just take on 2 Death Adders or something? Yeah, it might be a bonus with that timer, because I'm trying to think to myself, you know, what if you just avoided the enemy throughout the entire timer? Does it count as a win, because you avoided them long enough? I mean, how silly would that be? Uh-oh, it's getting really bitey now. Okay, this is getting crowded. Uh-oh. Not looking good. And I'm done by 2 dragon ladies. On the path to glory. Well, my path to glory is done. Especially for tonight. Well, guys, I think I had my fill of my Golden Axe. It was interesting to explore it, you know, try out different characters. Surprisingly, I got a grade A, though, in the duel, at least. So I had that going for me. But I think I'm going to wrap it up for tonight. You can only have so much Golden Axe, and I have no clue what we got in store for next week, so we'll just play it by ear. But I appreciate you guys popping in and hanging out, and, of course, wrong channel pops in now, when I'm signing off. I don't know if I'm up for Golden Axe 2 next week, though, guys. I don't know. We'll have to play it by ear. It's just, I kind of just picked these. I've been leaning towards the Sega Genesis Classic Collection, because it's on the PS4 and it's easy to do, so it might be another... If you guys have any suggestions, just post on the comment when I post this video for next week what you're thinking, but kind of go off of what's in this Sega Genesis collection. But it's good to see the wrong channel is alive and well. I'm glad you stopped by, my friend, and thanks again, TV, Ryu, and Izzy. It's always a blast BSing with you guys, but had my fill, and I will just catch up with you guys next week. Till then, I'll talk to you guys later. Take it easy.